Hello, innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers. Welcome to another episode of Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. And today I'm interviewing Jay from AxonDAO, where he's going to be sharing what they're building at the intersection of science, artificial intelligence, and Web3. He also has a lot of knowledge and skill when it comes to all things growth, storytelling, and marketing. So he shares a lot of his own secrets on how he manages to do what he does really well. As always, nothing that we talk about in this podcast episode should be taken as investment advice. And as always, please subscribe or leave a review after listening to this episode. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Jeff, welcome to the podcast. It's absolutely an honor and a pleasure to be interviewing you. We work in this world that is so small that I have known some of your previous colleagues and stuff in this space. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Sam, thank you so much. Really looking forward to it. Thank you for having me. And small world, right?
Absolutely. So let's just get straight into it. How did you get involved in all things blockchain and Web3? None of us grew up thinking that we will work in this when we were growing up.
Yeah, it's a great question. I originally come from Johannesburg, South Africa, and
Yes.
being in that kind of an area, you see the limitations of the infrastructure that's currently built. So that pushed me towards wanting to understand more about proper solutions to these kinds of problems. I was originally working in banking, and then I moved over to special project management for the biggest security company in Africa, and then really got interested in tech. Moved over to one of the big banks in South Africa, and I was hooked from there, learned about blockchain from there. And a friend once came up to me and he was like, man, I bought this thing called Bitcoin. I'm not sure what it's going to do. And I was like, amazing, let me learn. And I went in and I learned all about it, and I was hooked. I started a marketing agency and then joined a marketing agency. And I've been red-pilled ever since because the use cases are genuinely amazing. Like just sending money, a borderless, instantaneous. It's just an immediate game changer for people who don't have access to that kind of thing, particularly those developing areas like Africa, for example, where I come from.
Yes, very true. Living here in New Zealand, got lots of South African friends. As you can imagine, lots of people who have migrated from South Africa over the last 20, 30 years that I've been here. How do you describe AxonDAO, or what problems does it solve?
AxonDAO basically is a decentralized science project, a vertical, which is getting a lot of attention now. I think particularly with CZ, Vitalik mentioning this consistently. And on top of it, like people like Brian Armstrong, who's building Research Hub. He's focused on Research Hub as a project. So AxonDAO is a culmination of everything that a researcher would need if we're looking at it from the researcher perspective. The way that I usually define AxonDAO is quite simplistic. We're a decentralized science collective that gives individuals control over their health data, and we enable ethical AI insights. And simultaneously, the intention is that we fund breakthrough research. This is all done through a governed community. It's all conducted and set up by a governed community. But I think the big things really for us to nail down on is we give researchers a place to access resources that previously they wouldn't have had access to by utilizing a decentralized model. And then simultaneously, what we do is provide individuals with ownership over their health data, as well as the opportunity to contribute to groundbreaking science and simultaneously fund that science. So yeah, that's effectively what AxonDAO does.
Fantastic. Doing some like research. There are already some projects on AxonDAO. Can you tell me a bit about some of these projects?
Absolutely. So at present moment, we've got 2 live projects, one which is, I would say, a lot closer to being live than we're really expecting. So really one that's completely live at the moment is called A+ Voice, and it's voice biomarker analysis. So basically you will have to say a specific phrase, answer a question, and say into a computer or into a recording device. We're porting over to mobile soon. AI will then analyze that data and provide you with insights on that data. And for providing that data and consenting to have that data as part of our data set, so in other words, giving you my data, you can use it, you can compute it. It's anonymized data. And what we then do is we reward you for participating in the study. Really what we're looking for is early signs of neural degenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, dementia. So we're really looking at becoming the predictive healthcare solution by analyzing people on a day-to-day basis and getting those early insights that we can potentially fix and flag. The other is Curing CureOS. So Curing is this wonderful little ring that I've got over here. And we also have its counterpart, which is CureOS. So from a CureOS perspective, I'd like you to imagine this as your vault where all of your health data is stored, and you're able to consent to it being part of studies or not be part of studies. And on top of this, you're also able to take this as, to have this as an option for you to join other additional studies. So yeah, curing is a fantastic product. It's something that we've gotten a lot of traction on. We've partnered with NBA player, Cleveland Cavaliers superstar, Tristan Thompson, who's one of our advisors. He's actually our chief advisory officer. So yeah, we're super excited about it. The next version should be coming out. We'll probably rebrand it and change a few things, but the next version will be coming out, I imagine, Q4. Yeah.
Fantastic. So how do you support these projects, or what support do they get by partnering with AxonDAO?
It's a great question. So these two projects were internally created, and we just wanted to use them as use cases to prove out the business or prove out the model. What we have done is we have granted funds to a project at the moment called LymeDAO. LymeDAO basically looking at overcoming Lyme disease. And
Yes.
in terms of the support that we provide, what we do is provide them with access to one, our network, two, our platform, and three is obviously additional revenue, additional options for funding should they reach specific milestones. And I just want to touch on our system for a moment from a researcher point of view. Imagine you as a researcher have to go to all of these different places to, number one, collect data, number two, compute that data, and number three, present that data.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing that we also provide is to provide the network of people who can participate in these studies. But anyway, imagine you're a researcher and you want one single place to go where you can do all of these things, present this information. And that's kind of the main selling point for us right now in terms of we've got the infrastructure set up for a researcher to come in, gather data, conduct their research, and summarize that research and present it forwardly. The long-term vision here is that what we'll do is we'll have a data set marketplace as well as an algorithm marketplace for researchers to be able to and lease those data sets as well as algorithms to really expedite and speed up the process of all research. I don't think finding a cure should be something that we should faff around about. I think it should be something we put a lot of effort on and solving core problems.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Just thinking out loud on who has the lot of data. It would be institutions such as like large hospitals or medical systems, or where healthcare is publicly controlled, not privatized. Then it would be the government related institutions who would have a lot of this data. Why not just go to them to open it up for everyone?
It's definitely the plan. But at the moment, we've just onboarded 10 design partners just to flesh out the final product from a hypothesis perspective. Because obviously, as a founder yourself, we have these hypotheses in our minds. We think we know, and then we get to market and it's not always the same, just that we've onboarded some design partners to help us design that flow. On top of this, we've just onboarded another team member who is extremely experienced from a scientific research perspective. There's a center here in Portugal where I'm based called the Center for the Unknown, as well as the Champ-Le-Monde Research Center, Cancer Research Center. So she was the head of innovation there. Really wonderful asset to have. And this is what we'll be gearing towards, getting this into the hands of people who can really put it to good use and affect change in the world.
Yeah, fantastic. What would you say would be the hardest part of marketing a DeSci project to a wider audience?
It's a fantastic question. I think in my instance, it's the fact that we do a lot. And so, for example, with a product like with curing, right? I think the narrative of what AxonDAO really got lost in terms of it's the ring. We're not just the ring. It's a product that we've run. But yeah, basically, I think one is DeSci is an up and coming narrative. It's an up and coming vertical. We've just seen fantastic work by BioProtocol, who are now market cap leaders in terms of DeSci and Research Hub, two of our biggest competitors, at least from a market cap perspective. But they've done fantastic work in terms of taking the vertical further along. But the big thing is it's an unknown thing. There's a lot of critics of the space because has the model been proven? Have we validated this model? But really, it's about changing. Scientists have always relied on their way of doing things. It's almost a very archaic structure. For example, a scientist would rather apply for funding and wait potentially 10 months to get the fund, as opposed to, hey, I'll go through this project that's got crypto rails. I can wait maybe 2 weeks to get funding. So I think the big thing is just changing the perception of the market at the moment and really owning the category. What is decentralized science and what are its use cases? I think that's the biggest problem at the moment.
How do you explain to your family what is DeSci? How would you do that?
This is a fantastic question. And I always provide the same answer every time somebody asks me this, but I got the answer from an incredible builder in the space, Kiho Kumar. I'm not sure if he's the head of growth, but he's involved in the microbiome DAO project, focusing on gut health, right?
Yes.
So what do you eat, where you live, these kinds of things. What does that effect have on your body? Anyway, long story short, I asked him the question. I said, well, how would you define DeSci? And his answer is one that stuck with me, which is I like to think of DeSci as the commons for discussion around science. So what I mean by that is the commons in terms of, I think you live in the same kind of governmental setup as I do, where I was living, where people are around and they're debating these kinds of topics and coming to a conclusion on them. That's the way that I like to look at it, because let's say you're suffering from a disease or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
you can't find information on this. There's no active research. Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you talk to? This is a problem. And so DeSci basically allows us to have conversations with researchers, go out into the community and say, guys, we think this is a massive problem. Here's us proving it. Do you want to fund it? Absolutely, they do. Or we can look at it the other way. The community can say, guys, we've recognized that this is a problem. There's not a researcher here to do this, but we've recognized there's a problem. Let's go out and find a solution to the issue. And that's really what it is. It's an expedited way to find solutions to problems. That's how I explain it to my mom, really, and she gets
Yeah.
it. So
Oh,
I think
that's
it's a good explanation.
fantastic. You're one of the few people who has been able to articulate to this level, because it is an art and a skill to be able to simplify any topic, especially something that is complex. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And you know how you were talking about doing a lot of things. There will be a lot of projects who will want this support. And of course, a lot of projects want funding. How do you choose and decide which project to highlight, which project to partner with or work with?
This is another fantastic question. I think the criteria is basically along the lines of what is the value add to society at this point in time and how quickly can we help you accelerate that? I think that's probably the biggest criteria upon which we look. But I think most importantly, we really look at who the individual is and at the drive in terms of getting it over the line. That's probably the most important thing. I think you can attest yourself as a founder. I think a lot of investors, a lot of people who are putting money towards specific places, a lot of them will say the case study is fantastic. The business plan is amazing. The deck is great. But who's the entrepreneur? Who's the person who's building it? How much grit do they have? So we look at a combination of all of that. But effectively, we're building right now in the health sciences space with the roadmap of expanding that to other areas. So we're looking for people who are building in that particular space, can meet a specific need, and also obviously have the desire and grit to go forward and make it happen.
Very true. I have some questions around, you have so much experience in marketing and growth and everything. So I would love to touch on some of those subtopics. My first
Sure.
one is, what role do you think storytelling plays or can play in Action DAO's growth strategy?
I got to give you credit, man. These are really good questions. I think storytelling from any brand's
Yes.
perspective is critical. It's how you're connecting with the person on the other side through the story that you're telling. Because I think a lot of the problems that founders, particularly in this space, have in the blockchain space, in the crypto space, we forget that what we're selling to and what we're building products for is for a person, right? And that story that we tell needs to relate to that person. We need to really make sure that the pain point and that emotional lever that we're pulling resonates with them. And so the storytelling arc needs to make a lot of sense. It needs to, one, define your category. There are two marketers who I will always say are the best marketers I've ever met. One is one of the co-founders of Myosin, Simon Yee, fantastic, amazing marketer. The other is Ekram Ahmed, who is the CMO of Celestia. And he's a positioning strategist. And basically what that means is he defines his space in the market and he tells a story on that, because he's carved out what makes him different, identified who it resonates with, and tells the story specifically to that individual. All of everything that they do is geared towards that specific person. It's a critical element of marketing.
Absolutely. And thank you. I have to give you credit where credit is. My next question was going to be, who are one or two people you look up to in this world of storytelling, or who's doing it right at the moment? Thanks for already answering that.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's,
can add on
yes.
to it.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
From a DeSci perspective, the bio team did a fantastic job over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think they 4x their market cap. Really good job. Amazing. First a listing, then a rollout of a new product, and then they started a campaign to really expose it. I'm not sure who's leading marketing over there, but really good job. Ekram is honestly the person that I put on the pedestal as being the GOAT of crypto marketing, because in a space that is currently trying to define itself, he very clearly defines where he is in that niche and in that specific sector. And I find that to be a very unique skill, because like every DeSci project, for example, and a project that's operating on the frontier of AI, blockchain, and healthcare, right? You'll hear this tagline consistently. Everybody's the same. So how do you differentiate? And that's such an important thing to pay attention to. In my opinion, he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time so far.
Fantastic. That's really good. If you had to give maybe two or three quick suggestions to anyone building in this space or growing their product, their startup, or their project in this space, what would it be?
I think the first answer to that is very specific. It's go and talk to
Yes.
people. That's the most important thing because, again, as I mentioned earlier, we create these hypotheses in our minds and we think there's a need for this. And we don't talk to the people who we think it's going to go out and serve. And
Yeah.
so that's the first thing. Who is the ideal person at the end of the line? Go and talk to that person, understand who they are. Remember, you're selling to a person. Whatever product you're creating, you're giving it to a person to utilize. Whether it's a person or a business, either, the important thing is what are they looking for? Go and get that information. I think then the second thing is a great piece of advice I got from Simon, which is, what I think every founder is very susceptible to thinking, oh, shiny, let's do that. So we get very distracted. And whilst I understand, and then everybody says pivot, I think identify the end goal, get some information, build towards that, speak to people, build towards that. Don't get really attached to these new things that shine and pop up all the time because there's going to be a new thing tomorrow, particularly in a space like ours. And I think the very last thing, which I've seen in a couple of startups and a couple of places where people are building it, it's very critical to have some kind of roadmap or vision laid out before you. A lot of the problems that I see with a lot of startups is we're building this amazing thing. And then what does V1 look like? What does V2 look like? When are we getting feedback? For me, probably the most important thing of the lot is just understanding I'm here. This is my end goal.
Yeah.
How am I going to get there? What do I need to get to? It's having the end in mind and working backwards. But I think honestly, I'd like to turn the question around to you, if you don't mind me asking it, and say, what is your piece of advice for a builder in this space?
That's such a good thing to do. This would be the number one thing, especially when it comes to sales and growth and marketing and all that, especially sales. Good salespeople just tell you all about the benefits and the value the product brings, and they just talk and talk. But the best salespeople, they ask questions and they ask good questions. And that's one of the things that you showed, because that has a lot of value, because that's when you really get to understand your users' pain points. Does not even have to be just users. It could be your team members, could be your superiors, could be anyone. You get to understand the people more when you ask the right questions. So there is a huge importance in asking the right questions. And then the other thing is that if your marketing is not right, your branding, your storytelling is not right about your product, you will have to put a lot more effort in on the sales side or in the digital world these days and running ads and making content and all that side. And if you take it one step further back, you would have to spend a lot more in marketing if your product is not right. So, it all starts with the product. The product has to really solve the pain points. If the product is 10x better than everything out there in the market, people will do the marketing for you. There will be no issue in the sales and distribution, and all these things will be a lot more sorted because people will go through the gray channels to get your product because the product speaks for itself. So start with the product, make sure you're solving a very strong problem, that there is no solution out there, you're 10x better, and then the rest of the journey becomes a lot easier. Those would be my key suggestion. And continuing on what you were saying on the vision side of things, to have that long-term vision, what is your team's vision for AxonDAO, or where do you see it in the next 2 to 3 years?
This is a fantastic question. I think, honestly, our objective is to really start making an impact in terms of improving the ownership of data. That for us is a huge thing. We're very privacy
Yes.
centric. Obviously, operating in the crypto space, it's very privacy centric. We want to make sure that we're in control of everything. And I think our health data is one of the most important things. So really establishing that control of individuals in the space of their health data, I think is a critical element, right? And I think that's what blockchain's really enabled, is it's, or at least from a retail perspective, it's really enabled that self-sovereignty. For me, I'm self-sovereign. I have complete control over my assets in terms of the digital space, right? Nobody else does. And so then I think health data should be the same. But where we're going is honestly what our 2-year vision is. We're really looking to create the infrastructure, white label, and put this into the hands of people who can really explore or explode the impetus that this will have. Just imagine a researcher with the right tools in a remote place of the world can have just as much of an impact as somebody in Johns Hopkins or anything, right? Putting the right tools in the hands of people curious enough to create something is exactly what we need to do. And that's our objective, focused specifically on health and making sure that you are more informed. We create preventative measures to solve health problems, and we help you to live a happier life. Our tagline is science powering the quality of life. We don't want you to live forever. I understand people who do, but that's not my position. For us, we want to make sure that you've got an extra 20 years most importantly, that you're able to enjoy those 20 years, that you're not suffering.
Not just quantity of life.
Exactly. What's the point in living forever if you don't enjoy it? If you're stuck in, you're bedridden, for example, there's no point. It's got to be something that you can enjoy and that others around you can enjoy with you. So at least that's my position.
Fantastic. And then as you and your team go on this journey to reach this vision, what do you feel would be, say, one or two big challenges that you would face that you're not facing right now?
This is a good question. One of the that we're not facing right now, and I honestly don't know. I don't think one of the things I could imagine is that like the market for wearables that provide you with more information on who you are is really tensing up at the moment. A lot of competition is coming into the space. We're seeing a lot of people building this kind of thing. There's Whoop, there's Aura in the Solana space. There's Kudos guys have done a fantastic job. A lot of really cool projects that are coming out. So there's going to be a lot of competition for us. And we're just really looking at making sure our product is going to be fantastic. It's just hopefully being able to control the growth. That's the problem I'm hoping we have.
Fantastic. That does make a lot of sense. And in order to achieve everything you want to achieve, my final question is, do you have a ask? Are you guys looking at raising next? Are you guys doing a TGE? Are you guys hiring anything, or could be something completely different? Feel free to share with the community that's listening.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do currently have, or are about to, I would say maybe tomorrow, we're starting to raise our Series A.
Fantastic.
If there's anyone who's interested in buying in, and we're looking for people who are buying into the vision, it's about creating that long-term value for people en masse. So that's currently where we're at. We're also really looking to expand our algorithm and agentic AI interpretation of data and making that very user-friendly. So presenting that in a way that's really sticky for an individual. So I'm really looking for an AI/ML genius. I do have one, but I'd like another if I could get one.
I often come across them from time to time, but it is hard to find really good people in that because our product does portfolio management for funds. And so we are always also we are hiring 2 more backend developers at the moment. And it's hard to find the right people because we are not Facebook, we are not Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sure you heard about those sort of things, what they were paying at
250 million. Wow.
As an early stage startup cannot compete with that sort of pay scale. But that's fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave links for AxonDAO and for you so people can connect with you and learn more about everything that you are doing, building at AxonDAO, and also all the other things that you do in this space and in the marketing and growth space. Once again, thank you so much for your time today. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Sam, honestly, what a privilege, man. Thank you so much. I was very excited to jump on and lived right up to my expectations. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching this episode of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. By now, you know the drill. Leave a comment or share this episode with a friend and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So that's why my DMs are open. Reach out to me, especially if you are a founder building a product in Web3. Then I would love to hear from you. What are your challenges? Is there anything that I can help you or my community can help you with? Thank you once again and wish you best of luck in building your startup or your project.